We did it, Ellie. We reached week 10 of XFL DFS. Look, there's a lot to talk about as far as playoff implications, motivations from each one of these teams, which teams are going to be playing starters, which teams aren't, which teams are actually playing for something. There's a lot to talk about, so let's just jump right into it. What is up, guys? Welcome to the Edge DFS. My name is Tyson Smith, joined by Ellie Hernandez. Ellie, what's going on with you, man? Hey, we did it. We did a video for each week. We're going to continue through the playoffs and then into the XFL Championship. It's been a pretty good year, man. This has been pretty fun. How have you liked XFL DFS so far?
I've enjoyed it, and if not even just from the DFS perspective, like this might sound a little cheesy, but I think this is the most like conversation we've had on a consistent basis in our Discord.
Yeah,
it's been really cool, kind of getting to know some of these guys a little bit better. And they're just all degens like us, obviously gambling through 10 weeks of XFL, but no, it's been cool, kind of just building those relationships in that chat. So hop in, man. Like if you guys want to come join, like we've been chopping it up in there, winning some money.
Well, we're doing NBA. We're doing, Ellie and I are both grinding out NBA and MLB every day. We're mixing in some other sports as well, MMA, a little bit of NHL. I shipped an NHL small contest for $600 the other day, and that was like the second time I ever played. So I'm gonna keep playing NHL and figure that out. But anyways, let's take a look back at last week, the winners from last week. So this was the winning lineup in the big contest. No, that's not right. This is the winning lineup in the big contest. That's the same fucking thing. Hang on a second. Anyways, this is the this is the big No, this is the 222. Yeah, this is the 222 because you got Eli Rogers in there. Ben DiNucci, Jacquez Patrick, Marcel Aitman, Eli Rogers was the dud here, but this is why I like playing this 222. You know what I mean? Because you really don't have to hit the nuts, and you could still win 5K, which isn't that what's up top on the big contest, right?
Yeah.
What jumps out to you about this lineup? Let me load up the other one, the big contest. What jumps out to you here?
Well, another thing we've been talking about a lot recently in the Discord is contest selection, and this is why the single entries are just so important. You got the 60% owned Eli Rogers, 5,300.
Yeah,
with
that
an
was so
absolute
stupid.
Dud, 2.9.
Yeah,
but because he was so high owned, it didn't do shit to this lineup. Having that 8% Ja'Cory Pearson is what saved his ass and put him right there in the first. So it's just something we've been talking about every week. Don't get locked in on one guy.
Yeah, so this is the 10K. Sorry about that. 10K to first. Corey 1342, Ben DiNucci, our boy John Lovett. Where's he at? Where's the sound? I don't know where the sound is. Fuck it. John Lovett, Ja'Cory Pearson, Marcel Aitman, Canella, Darrington, Dimebag Darrell, and the Brahmas defense. So pretty nice lineup here. 10K to Corey. Nice looking lineup. Let's talk briefly. I want to talk briefly about the playoff scenarios this week, right? So basically, the only thing we really care about is what teams actually have incentive to play, right? We know for a fact that St. Louis and Seattle, they've got to put up a ton of points. They've got to win, each one of these teams. No matter which one, St. Louis is playing first and Seattle's playing last. It doesn't really matter. If St. Louis loses, Seattle still has to win to get in. And down to the tiebreakers, when you start getting weird with it, these tiebreakers are kind of interesting because it goes to this point. Depending on the scenario, you could see it come down to like point differential, right? So in my opinion, clearly, the safest plays, your stacks are going to want to be involved with both of these teams. You can almost treat them like a game stack. You know what I mean? Like go heavy St. Louis and then run two pass catchers or two players back from Seattle. I think that's going to be the way to go. These teams both have to win. So there's a lot of incentive. And look, I don't mind playing some of their opponents like as one-offs, like Orlando and Vegas, because those teams are both eliminated. And they want to put something on tape. So what jumps out to you here, man? What are your thoughts? We'll talk about some of the other teams here in a second, but I just wanted to briefly talk about St. Louis and Seattle. They have to win. We know they're going to play hard. Their playoff lives are at stake. So we can pretty much be safe. It's one of the safer options if you're going to play some of these studs. Just go with Seattle, go with St. Louis, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think St. Louis and Seattle are really the two teams you want to target, kind of just to echo your sentiment there. But this is something that we're gonna have to keep in mind. What we were doing last week, right? We're trying to build for that last game because the Vipers and Sea Dragons is the last game. So I mean, if you got 80% of your exposure tied up into those those two stacks, you're gonna have to be prepared to adjust at the last minute. So I'm going to have a lot of exposure to the Dragons, especially because they need to have what is that? St. Louis needs 19 more points than Seattle scores against Vegas. You were talking about it a little bit pregame show. Like they just have to score a shitload of points.
Yeah.
So I want to see what Ben DiNucci does. It's just kind of funny. We're coming down to the end of the season, and our two quarterbacks are AJ McCarron and Ben DiNucci.
Yeah.
Like that might be my entire player pool. For
I think it probably should. Like, if you're playing the big contest, maybe you can mix in another one of these random quarterbacks, but it's risky, So let's look at injuries real quick. Then we'll get into the full first look at all these matchups. So some pretty big news here. De'Veon Smith is a DNP all week with an ankle injury. That really opens up some good value if he doesn't play. And another thing to talk about is, look, if San Antonio wins on Saturday. If San Antonio loses on Saturday, Arlington they clinched a playoff spot. So they're not going to run De'Veon Smith out there if they clinch, and they may not run him out there anyways. It kind of just depends. But this is a must win for San Antonio, and if San Antonio wins, then Arlington needs to win as well. Victor Bolden, the new Mr. Glass, DNP, he's probably not going to play. Martavis Bryant. Some big news here is Rod Smith with an ankle injury. Questionable. He's a DNP. Last week, I can't seem to get these running backs right for Vegas. 1 week I'm going with our boy John Lovett, and Rod Smith goes off. I go with Rod Smith the next week, and Lovett goes off, and then I go with Lovett, and he's shitting his pants. He's got to go back, shit his pants, clean it up, come back in. You just can't really rely on these guys. And we have another dude, Burt, as well, who did well. So with Rod Smith being questionable, that opens up some decent value. I'm interested in Lovett. I'm interested in Burt if he doesn't play. Juwan Green is actually, he had a full practice on Thursday. They don't really give us whether or not they're questionable or not. So some of these guys I don't know, but he has a shoulder injury. It looks like Damian Willis probably won't play, though. He's a DNP all week with a hip injury. Let's talk about this top half here first. What jumps out to you? Probably De'Veon Smith and Rod Smith, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, De'Veon Smith is out. We have some value that'll open there. Victor Bolden, I don't think we saw him play like his first week. I think he had like 3 snaps, and he's been dead since then. So that's not shocking. Martavis Bryant, he's going to be a really big piece, especially him and Rod Smith, right? These Las Vegas guys, we already talked about it. Like that's going to be one of the games that we're still looking to target a little bit. So we might open up a little bit of value here, and then obviously, maybe Badet actually gets some legit run if Bryant doesn't play. I don't know, but that didn't look too great last week. So that stuff matters. And then I don't know, man. Like Juwan Green, are we going back to the well if he's good to go?
No,
I don't know.
I mean,
especially with Willis out.
The one strategy that I'm thinking of doing is playing Ben DiNucci more and pair him with one like Ja'Cory Pearson, and then just hope that I absorb all the touchdowns or all the points that these random wide receivers would catch. Because Juwan Green being 40% owned last week or whatever it was just too high. Like we're seeing it's interesting to me. I don't know why. I don't know if it's newer people that are coming in and just saying, oh man, Devin Darrington scored a lot of points last week. I'm going to play him in all my lineups. Well, we know that Devin Darrington is kind of a risky play because Orlando sometimes just doesn't get it going, and you know what I mean? So it's kind of interesting that these ownerships are so high. It's such an easy thing to do to fade these guys, but at the same time, it's also incredibly risky, like to fade Juwan Green if he's 40% owned. Let's move on to Orlando. The only guy on the injury report is Logan Carter. He's another tight end. He's out. So, that just opens up, with Latimer most likely coming back. That's what it seems like to me. I think he's still listed as out on the DK app. So that could be a huge benefit if you're trying to get a little bit of leverage there. But we have a ton of tight ends from Orlando. There's one of them is out. That's basically it. So Houston here is interesting. So Dejoun Lee was limited. Looks like he'll probably play, but Michael Bandy is probably not going to play. He's a DNP all week. So Houston, we'll talk about them in a minute. I think they come out and maybe with the first team offense, give it a feel in the first quarter and try to get some momentum going into the playoffs because they haven't looked great. And then they sit everybody. Then you bring Cole McDonald in. You get Sputnik in. You get Dejoun Lee, Bryson Aline. They're all in. Like all these dudes are going to come in at a certain point in this Houston game, most likely. Michael Bandy, though, he's good value. We wanted to play him last week, but he was inactive. Mateo Durant, concussion, he was out last week. We didn't really see a whole lot from the other backup for Brian Hill, so I don't think I'm going to really go too crazy with that. Anyways, anything else jump out to here before we get into this bird's eye view?
No, just want to echo the piece with Orlando. Jami Martin is currently listed as out on the Draftkings app. So we do not have confirmation of that yet. So obviously that piece matters, guys.
I didn't see him on the injury report. So look, if Jami Martin is active, I mean, if Dimebag Darrell is coming in at 40+% ownership, they're the same price. Maybe you take a stab with Jami Martin this week and maybe hope he just falls into the end zone and vultures a couple from Dimebag. All right, let's get into this first look. So we've talked briefly about some of this stuff, but now I want to go game by game and kind of talk it out. So Orlando going into St. Louis, it's going to be packed there. It's a must-win. It's playoff scenario pretty much. They got to win this game. AJ McCarron didn't look good last week. They lost to the Sea Dragons. They could have locked it up last week if they won that game. McCarron did not look good. I'm hoping at this point, his injury, his shoulder feels a little bit better. At this point, I'm just hoping that we can get, at least 3 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns out of these dudes. That would be incredible because I'm going to be playing a shitload of these guys. They're favored they're 9-point favorites at home against Orlando. Orlando has no pressure. At this point, Dormandy, I think he plays well when there's no pressure and nobody gives a shit. Their only win this year was against the undefeated DC Defenders. No one gave them any chance of winning that game. I think it's something similar here, and I think they can come out and look pretty good and play well, but we just don't know who they're going to utilize. Maybe they want to give some other players a chance to shine. Some of these second or third string wide receivers, maybe we might see somebody else that we're not used to seeing. That's what kind of gets risky with it. That's why I'm really only comfortable playing with like Latimer, maybe Dimebag Darrell, and if Eli Rogers is going to be high owned again, I'm not playing him. He's only had one good game all year. Like we were waiting for that good game to happen, but it happened when, it happened, and now he's chalk. So I'm not going to really touch him because he's usually like 2% owned. Anyway, so let's talk about, tell me about Orlando, who you're liking, and then what do we do when it comes to St. Louis? You got Marcel Aitman is going to be the highest owned player on the slate, and he should be because he's still priced down. I feel like Marcel Aitman is the only player on this entire slate that's actually mispriced.
Yeah, man. So look, this first game is going to be really interesting, right? Because it's going to set up what's going to happen the entire weekend. If for whatever reason St. Louis just happens to get shut down by Orlando's defense this week, then it changes the whole perspective of the slate. But look, I think your primary target needs to be AJ McCarron and stacking up his wide receivers here. I think we'll get into a little bit more of the Hakeem Butler issues when we get to the wide receivers breakdown part. But I think your primary stack here is AJ McCarron, Darius Shepard, and even Marcel Aitman. And then maybe run back with somebody from Orlando. I think you can target Orlando for some runbacks just because they're 1-8, man. So like their biggest motivations could be playing spoiler, right? Yeah. Let's see what we can fuck up. And then, maybe one of these guys thinks that they can get on a practice squad next year for an NFL team, or maybe they can go play in the USFL once their season ends. I don't know how any of that works. So, I think there's going to be guys that we can take away from the Orlando Guardians. Now, if you're in a 150 max GPP, I don't think you would be too crazy maybe going the other side, maybe doing a 2-1, taking Quentin Dormandy and Cody Latimer and running it back with someone from the Battlehawks. I don't think you go much more than 2 just because there's so many question marks on how good the Orlando Guardians offense is. But, for GPP, bigger GPPs, I think he might be the 4th quarterback in my player pool. And even then, I'm still kind of stretching a little bit doing that.
Yeah, and look, it's the small things with Orlando at this point. They want to play spoiler, but look, it's kind of there's some stats involved here that you got to look at. if Latimer has a pretty good game, I mean, he could be the leading wide receiver in all of the XFL this year for the regular season. That's kind of a big deal to a team that has only won one game. You could come out of this with your best player is also the leading receiver in the league. That's kind of, I mean, they could be feeding him like crazy in this game. Look, St. Louis does not have a good defense. This could absolutely be a 60-point total in this game. I hope it is, because it's the obvious place to go. All right, let's talk about the next matchup. DC Defenders going into San Antonio to 42-point total. The Defenders are only 3-point favorites. Why? Well, because they have nothing to play for. Right? There's no reason why they should start Te'amu. Right? So basically, earlier in the week they released Eric Dungy, their third quarterback. They brought in a guy, Jeremy Hickbottom, who is primarily a rushing quarterback. He played at Tennessee State. He had 7 rushing touchdowns in 2021 as their quarterback. He didn't throw the ball much at all. So he's obviously one of these guys that in the D'Eriq King type of player. And there's, to me, Te'amu is going to be inactive for this game. I haven't seen that anywhere. This is just obvious to me. You start D'Eriq King, you have Te'amu inactive, and then you have Hickbottom come in the second half and just kind of see what he's got. See what he's got there. And look, San Antonio does have to win this game. This is a must win for them. Jack Cohn looked pretty good last week, of course, against Orlando. So I don't think, besides like Jaquez Patrick, maybe Hilleman, maybe Landon Akers, and maybe the defense, I'm not touching stacks for San Antonio, but I am interested in some one-offs here because they do have to win this game. So let's talk about this game. What do you think the Defenders are going to do? When it comes to Abram Smith, I mean, he probably starts the game, but you don't want to leave him. Like, there's no reason to play him besides stats, and maybe to get a little confidence going to the playoffs. But I think the guy to go to here is Puka Williams, man. Like, we got to talk about this. Raquel Armstead and Jaquez Ezzard released. So, guess who plays both of those positions? Kick return, backup running back. It's Puka Williams. So I think you're gonna get a lot of run from Puka Williams in this game because now he's healthy. I don't know. What do you think about that, man? I think he's probably the only safe guy that we can play on this Defenders team.
Yeah, and we're looking for some value maybe to at least come off the 8-man chalk in a couple lineups. So I think Puka will be fine. And who knows, man? We could, as we get closer to lock, he could be closer to chalk than we thought he would be too. So, but I think the way that you target this game is, just one-offs. I think you probably maybe do a 1-1 stack if you're looking to game stack this at all. I don't think you need to get as crazy and go with Jack Cohn and maybe get some stacks, even though San Antonio needs to win this game. Like, they need to win this game because they've been dog shit all year. So like I wouldn't expect that to change this weekend. And look, DC Defenders, their defense is probably going to be expensive, but I don't know that this is a terrible place to pay up. I think I'll have some decent exposure. And on the other side of this, I think I said it last week, right? Play a little bit of Brahma's defense. They were cheap. Ended up working out. And if it does happen that DC does play backups, like, San Antonio Brahmas defense might be back in play, man.
Yeah.
I think that's viable.
Oh, yeah. I could see San Antonio winning this game outright.
Yep.
And look, if they do, well, that's going to affect the next game here on Sunday. The way these games are played in the order they're played is kind of important because you got Houston in the first game going into Arlington on Sunday. This is pretty much a pick 'em because Houston's probably not going to play their guys for more than like a couple drives, in my opinion. But Arlington, they're going to need, they're going to basically have to wait to see what happens with San Antonio as far as how they treat it. Even if San Antonio loses, I still think that Luis Perez comes out and starts. I think they kind of, maybe they play a couple drives because they need to get some momentum going into the playoffs because this will be the playoff matchup. Now, if you think of it that way, well, maybe they want to hide some stuff. I don't know. But in my opinion, I think that Arlington, you probably can't trust them again. You could probably go Arlington defense, though, because they're priced down, going up against the Houston Roughnecks. We could see Cole McDonald in early in the first quarter, second quarter. Who knows? What are we doing with this game? It all depends kind of on San Antonio. So, like, if San Antonio wins, I think you maybe late swap into a couple more Arlington Renegades guys as one-offs. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I already talked about saving a lot of my exposure to ensure that I have Seattle Sea Dragon stacks. And then, the kind of the way that you pivot off of that is, maybe you go to a couple lineups with Arlington Renegade stack. You're going to be saving a shitload of money. So you get a whole bunch of studs in those lineups. But yeah, man. Other than that, like I think you kind of just attack this game, just one-offs. I don't know that I'll be getting any of the Houston Roughnecks unless we see that people are actually being limited. Their scenario is just too much up in the air. They're already locked in the playoffs. I expect them to, like you said, play maybe the first quarter. But what if Silvers comes out and just looks like dog shit on the first drive? He may not see a snap the rest of the game. So there's just too much in the air. So I really don't want to target this game too much. I think you go to a little bit to Arlington, and then only just work it in there if there's playoff implications after the promise game.
Arlington at this point with Luis Perez, what a great trade. They've turned their offense around slightly. They're still not very a powerful offense, but they're way better than they were. I think he's averaged like 260 yards per game on offense, as opposed to like 175 before him. So look, Luis Perez last week won me a Sunday only GPP, first place. Getting tons of stacks with him. I think going up against Houston, they have nothing to play for really. You could see some value when it comes to Perez and Canella together. Canella he's finally getting his reps. He made the optimal lineup. All right, let's talk about this last game here. So Vipers, they have nothing to play for. They're playing spoiler basically. Same thing that's going on with the Orlando Guardians. So I think all of these Vipers dudes are in play. There's really no reason to not play these guys. If you're Bidet, you want to go out and you want to end the season strong. He sort of had a underwhelming past couple weeks because he's been injured. If you're Bidet, you want to come out and you want to crush in this game, leave a nice taste in everyone's mouth, and try to get on an NFL roster this summer. When it comes to Sea Dragons, look, they're favored by 8.5 points. They're at home. There's it's Seattle, so there's always a little bit of chance of rain. Keep that in mind, but I don't think it's going to affect things too much. They're minus 380 on the money line. Basically, if you look at the totals for the St. Louis game and the Sea Dragons game, they're pretty identical, because they're really the only teams that actually are going to, play up to their best competition. So what do we do here, man? Like Ja'Cour Pearson, he's look, now he's going to be popular again. We played him as leverage the past 2 weeks. One of those weeks he really paid off. What do we do here with these guys? Ben DiNucci, you're going to want to play a ton of him, but there's a lot of other random dudes on this team that we just don't know who's going to catch the touchdowns besides Pearson.
Yeah, man. Like I mean, I'm gonna have a majority of my exposure going to Seattle and St. Louis, so I'm gonna have a variation of stacks. I think you just go, you go 3-1, man. Just make it easy on yourself. This is probably a game you want to stack up anyways. It's the second highest total on the slate, and two of the more reliable quarterbacks that we've seen. Even Jalen McClendon, just in his short time starting for the Vipers, has made that offense look a lot better. So I think that you just stack the hell out of this game, man. I'm going to have a shitload of Ben DiNucci. I don't know if I'm going to be as heavy on Pearson as I was the past couple of weeks. To your point, like he has been a nice leverage play. He just hasn't been owned. But the field's been chasing a lot with some of these players. So I think we just go back to Blake Jackson. If any of those other backups that we talked about in the injury era, Jawan Green or whatever, right? We're just opening up more periphery stats for some of these random guys. So, and then again, Philip Lindsay, right? This is week 3. It could be a week where they want to establish him a little bit and maybe save Ben's arm if St. Louis loses or something along those lines. So just stuff we got to keep paying attention to for that last game. Yeah,
Philip Lindsay's got fresh legs right now, so you might as well utilize him. All right, let's get into this breakdown. Let's do it. Break it down. All right, so as usual, Ben DiNucci is 12.2K. I think this is the first week where he hasn't been priced up. The Draftkings algorithms probably were like, yo, we can't price this dude up anymore. People won't be able to put a roster out. He's 12.2K. McCarron, 11.4K. He's priced down $300 from last week. And Quentin Dormady is 10.7. And then, of course, McClendon, 92. Ben DiNucci, AJ McCarron, those are the guys that you're going to want to get a bulk of your exposure to. The biggest question is which one. You save $800 for AJ McCarron. he hasn't looked great the last few weeks. He's been hurt. He missed a game. Last week he didn't look good. Does that roll over into this week? I don't know. You would think that he would step up. Who are you picking here, man? I think to me it's like, if I don't know how many lineups I'm gonna do this week because I'm gonna be out on the boat this weekend working, but I think, for my single entry, I think I might go Ben DiNucci for that 2-2-2. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm actually leaning a little bit more Ben DiNucci this week than I usually do. When I'm in doubt about two players that are pretty evenly projected or evenly popular, I'll generally defer to people in the last game. I can see ownership coming off of Ben DiNucci just because people are going to be a little bit more hesitant to wait, all 4 games. So I'm going to be leaning a little bit more towards Ben. Hopefully, I'm not dead in the water come Sunday night, though, because I'm not going to be fading AJ McCarron. I'm just saying I'm going to be a little bit more heavy on Ben DiNucci than I would have.
Yeah. So Teamu, in my opinion, is not going to play. That's just me. There's no confirmation to that. But why? Why would you have him active? Why would you sign a guy off the street this week and you're not going to have 3 active quarterbacks? So Derek King, in my opinion, gets to start at 8,400. He's worth messing with. But the only problem is, does he play the whole game? He's an important part of this offense. He's a nice change of pace to put it in the red zone. You don't want to get him hurt. We saw him get a concussion a few weeks ago. So even if he does start and he's 8,400, do you get a full half out of him? Probably. But besides that, you might not see him in the second half. Luis Perez, 8,600. Brandon Silvers, I'm not playing Brandon Silvers. He's 9K. And Jaden McClendon is 9,200. Could be an interesting tournament option. You can get creative this week with quarterback a little bit in bigger tournaments, like the big contest. If you want to play Derek King, that's probably stupid. I don't know that I would do that. But if you want to play McClendon, if you wanted to play Dormandy, it's probably a relatively good option. But I'm just personally going to go heavy on DiNucci McCarron, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I don't mind a little bit of Dormandy and McClendon, but other than that, I don't think I'm getting any deeper into these quarterback player pools.
All right. So running back, Abram Smith is 10.7, Brian Hill 10.3, Jaquez Patrick 88. So Abram Smith, how much run is he going to get? They released Raquel Armstead, which is a little strange to me. I felt like he finally got a touchdown the other week. He doesn't look great by any means, but why release him week 10? Well, the only reason why is because Puka Williams is ready to play. You want to open up another roster spot on the offensive line or the defense or whatever for the playoffs. If Puka Williams is ready and you have the number 1 pick in Abram Smith, you're going to want to give Abram Smith the ball most of the time. In this particular game, I don't see why he would play past like the first quarter. And shit, you might even see him inactive. I doubt that'll happen. He's going to be active, but he gets to start. Maybe he gets an early touchdown at 10.7K. If you don't get 15 to 20 fantasy points out of him, you're screwed. So I'm not playing him at all. Puka Williams is a guy that I will play. We'll talk about him a little bit more in a minute. But Raquel Armstead, RIP. Puka Williams, welcome back. Brian Hill is going to be popular again. He's 10.3K. I talked about it last week. There's always something with him. He's either fumbling, he's either injured. Every game he falls hard enough and he goes off the field and you think, okay, is 40% of the field screwed? Is he done for the game? And then he comes back the next drive. Sometimes he doesn't come back. But I think you're going to have to get some exposure to him at 10.3K going against Orlando. They're going to involve him in the pass game. They got to utilize Brian Hill more, but he's a guy that can make mistakes. And if he fumbles a couple times, you might just not see it back on the field again, because this is a big game. You can't be fumbling in a game like this. So thoughts on all these dudes? Are you interested in Jaquez Patrick again too? He's at 8,800. He had a great game last week.
So look, Abram Smith, Brian Hill, I'm probably just fading entirely. If you want to have some exposure to Brian Hill, just so you're not fucked if he does go off, I think that's fine. But at this point, I think he has more fumbles than he does touchdowns. He's fumbling every goddamn game. So, this is your season on the line. If he fumbles, he may not come back out. So, those prices, they have to pay off, and we just haven't seen that consistently from the running back position. I think Patrick is fine. Probably am not getting any to Max Borghi just because of what's going on with the Houston situation. They could play a snap. They could play a quarter. Who knows? I think Philip Lindsay's in play. Outside of that, man, I might just be stuck at Devin Darrington, Jameis Martin, just whoever ends up getting the start there. That might just be like 90% of my running back pool, man.
So we talked about it briefly already, but Arlington, Devion Smith he's a DMP. I don't think he's going to play. Even if it was a must win for Arlington, if San Antonio wins, I think that Devion Smith, because Arlington, a lot of things have to go wrong for them to not make the playoffs. I think you just wait. You let Devion Smith chill. You let him get healthy, and you play Letty Brown. I would expect Devion Smith to be inactive. I would expect Letty Brown to start. And at 4,900, the dude's starting against a team that really has no incentive to do anything, and a team that does have some incentive. I'd say Letty Brown is at 4,900 is one of the best value. Him and John Lovett at 5,200, great options. But look, you got Devin Darrington at 5,700. I think this is a perfect range here to target a lot of your guys, because if one of these top end running backs is a dud, you're screwed. I think you're screwed. You can maybe mess with Bryson Aline. I just don't trust anybody from Houston, really. But look who it is. Puka Williams Jr., 3,900. I'm going to have to play him, and I'm probably going to lose a lot of money doing it, but it's just such an obvious smash spot, at least when it comes to usage and how much he's going to be on the field. He's the only backup running back on the slate. Abram Smith is probably not playing the whole game. Maybe De'Aaron King and Puka Williams run the game. To me, it's a very nice spot for him at 3,900, and I'm very interested, but it is risky. Hilliman, 3,200. Brian Burt with Vegas. If Smith is out, Rod Smith is out, you could see some Brian Burt. We saw him come in and play well a few weeks ago. Who else am I missing here? What else are your thoughts here? Who's your favorite dude? Despite the salary, who's your favorite dude to play this week?
I mean, it's Dimebag Darrell, just assuming everything is and stays as it is right now. If, to your point, if for whatever reason Devion Smith doesn't end up playing and Letty Brown is starting, then he's clearly one of the best plays on the slate at 4,900. Then outside of that, it's Puka Williams. Like, I wish I had something, different to kind of say there, right? But that's what it is. And again, like the stuff with Dimebag Darrell, it still depends on what happens with the other running back. So, if they're splitting touches, then I'm not even, I don't know. I may not even pay up for either of those guys if both are active.
Yeah, look, let's look, it's a good matchup between St. Louis. Remember, St. Louis defense is the one who absolutely gave up that 200+ yard game to Abram Smith. They're not a good run defense. But here's the problem: this is Orlando. Like, if Jameis Martin is active, I got to decrease a little bit of Devin Darrington. Devin Darrington will start. They're going to want to play him. He's going to want to get some tape. But so does Jameis Martin. Jameis Martin was the number one dude coming in this year. So if he gets some of his snaps split, and then look, you also have why am I blanking on his name? Number 10 for Orlando. I'll remember it. Comment down below if you remember his name. He's getting some third down snaps as well. So now Devin Darrington is going up against two other running backs for a snap time. If he's 40+% owned at 5,700, I'm just gonna play John Lovett. I'm just gonna play Letty Brown or Puka Williams. Like, there's no reason to risk it, in my opinion. It's risky to not play him, though, because he's going to be so high owned, and if he has another 20-plus point fantasy game, you're probably screwed. Anything else to talk about here?
Nah, man, I think we're good.
All right, wide receivers. Ja'Cour Pearson's 11.3K. He's priced up a little bit more than he was last week because he's had 2 straight weeks with a touchdown. Last week he did great. Hakeem Butler at 10.7K. This is an interesting thing to talk about. With Marcel Aitman back, I mean, they're on the field at the same time, but it feels to me like Marcel Aitman is just getting a lot more of those targets. He's kind of like A.J. McCarron's guy at this point. Now, Hakeem Butler probably is going to score a touchdown in this game, but is that enough at 10.7K? If he gets you 12, 13 fantasy points, is that enough? I don't think it is, because I think that Aitman can easily get you 12, 13 fantasy points without scoring a touchdown, and he's 4,800 or whatever. So Hakeem Butler, I think his ownership will be kind of low. But what do you think about him? I think this is a perfect week to play a lot of him, because people are just not very high on him, and he's still one of these guys that can go out and score 2 touchdowns, right?
Yeah, man, it's our Ja'Cory Pearson GPP pivot, right? Like over the past 2 weeks, nobody was playing him, so we played him. Like
Yeah.
he's still one of the better wide receivers in the league. Akeem Butler, he's been turning it up all season. His issue is Aitman, but like for this offense to be better, they have to utilize all three of their wide receivers: Shepard, Aitman, and the Butler. So I expect them to kind of clean that up and get ready for the postseason. I think you go AJ, Akeem, and Aitman. I think you go AJ, Shepard, and Aitman.
Yeah.
Like AJ and Aitman is probably going to be a staple just because he's just so mispriced.
Yeah.
Blake Jackson was for like the first 7 weeks of the season. Now we see Blake Jackson in normal prices.
Yeah.
That's where Aitman should be. He's not there, so don't even count him as a part of your stack. He's just the 4,800 dude or whatever.
He's the free square. He's almost wide receiver. Yeah, I think he's the free square. Like there's not a He could get hurt. He could have a bad game. I just feel very confident in the fact that he hasn't even broken out yet. Really, he hasn't scored a touchdown. He's done well. He had 10 something fantasy points his first week. He had like 16 or 17 almost last week. That's just all him getting targeted a ton. So imagine if he reels one in or he gets a 2-point conversion. Like you're gonna have him if he's 50% owned. And I think you don't fade him. I think there's other guys to fade. There's Dimebag Darrells. There's other guys that you could fade. And with so much up in the air this week, you don't want to fade a dude who's going to be on the field like most of the game in a must-win game. Jeff Badet is 9,900. I'm not playing any Deontay Burnett. He won't even be in my player pool because we don't know what to think about Houston. Darius Shepard, 9,700. Obviously, you got to get some of him with AJ McCarron back. I feel like Darius Shepard is his deep threat, the guy that he's going to throw the ball. He's the boomer bust type guy. He will get some screenplays here and there, so you could probably expect like 5 fantasy points out of him as a floor if he has a bad game. But he's one of these dudes that will get you 30 fantasy points because he got like an 89-yard touchdown or something. You know, Josh Gordon should be, in my opinion, like 5,500. This whole year. I don't know why they're pricing up. Nobody ever wants to play him because he's 9,200. Maybe he gets one touchdown, but he's not getting targeted a lot. If they would have priced him down, it would have been a lot more fun this week because you're going to get some ownership to him, and you're going to get I don't know why they're pricing him up like this so much because he doesn't deserve that price tag at all. Lucky Jackson's 9K. I don't know how much I'm going to get to him. I mean, I think he's going to play. They got to roll some guys out there. But I don't think I'm going to get to anybody else on DC besides Puka Williams. Charleston Rambo's in play. Who else, man? I'm not playing Cedric Bird ever again unless I have a gun held to my head or something. Juwan Green injured. We don't know what he's up to. Talk to me about some of these middle range guys. What jumps out to you here? Like obviously Aitman's 4,800. He's the guy we want to play.
Scroll up a little bit. Missed his name. There we go. Landon Akers, obviously, isn't terrible play. 7,400. Don't mind getting a little bit of him in that 7K range. I think that's where I'm going. Blake Jackson, 8,700 is always in play. I'm with you, Cedric Bird. Not touching. Juwan Green, 6,800 is a little bit pricey for me. If he's good to go, I'm gonna have a little bit just because I'm stacking up Seattle. But some of these Las Vegas guys, I don't think I'm going to be getting any of them, like Allison and Martavis Bryant, unless I'm doing a specific Jalen McClendon stack. Even a 1-1, like I'm just not sure that I want to run back with those guys. Josh Hammond, he could be an interesting play at 6,500. What is he, wide receiver 2 or 3? Like he might get a couple extra targets just because we see that offense limited. But again, at 6,500, I don't think you really need to go there. Like we have enough value with Aitman and even just Puka Williams. Like I think you can kind of really build studs and stars around there, around them. Stars and scrubs there.
Yeah. Eli Rogers is going to be popular again. I mean, I don't hate him, but he's up with almost 1,000 this week because he won people a lot of money the week before, but he had another dud, and you have to expect that more often than not he's going to get you 5 fantasy points or something. And when he was 3,300, he was worth it.
Right. When we were risking, playing him every single week, it was because he was under 4K. I'm not playing him at 6,200.
No, hell no. And 20-30% of the ownership is still going to go to him probably, or maybe a little bit less because he had a dud last week. But people are going to play him a lot more than they should at that price tag. Marcel Aitman. I mean, there's really not a whole lot of other guys to talk about. Like Nick Hawley for San Antonio. he's been getting involved ever since they released him from Houston. He came over to San Antonio. They're actually utilizing him a lot more. He's 3,900. Maybe take a stab on him. KD Cannon, we saw him on that punt. Dedrick Thomas, that's the guy I was talking about. The other running back that gets some snaps. They have him listed as a wide receiver. But KD Cannon had a nice long. He almost had a big touchdown. We talked about it. This is a guy that they're going to go deep with, and he's either going to get you 0 fantasy points or he's going to get you like 13 or something. So that he's an option at 3K. Javonte Payton is an option. Jaquez Ezzard is released, so don't play him. Who else? Putman, Sputnik. I think Sputnik is actually in play this week at 3K. If Bandy's out and they're playing all their backups in the second half, you could see five targets to Putman, right?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
All right, let's move on unless you have anything else to add here.
I'm good, bro.
All right, tight end. So, look, Cody Latimer is back. His price is down now. He was out last week. He's at 8,800. I think Cody Latimer is still an incredible play. Like I said earlier, there's no reason why Cody Latimer is not going to be out there every play. Like, if he can have the most receiving yards in the XFL this season, why would you not have that as a goal for your team to make yourself feel better going into the offseason? I really think that at this point in the year, you're looking at that stuff. Teams and players are looking at that kind of stuff. And if you're on Orlando, you want Cody Latimer to go out on top because you want to see your teammate in the NFL next year. Sal Canelo looks better. He's at 6,400. His price is down, which, Sal Canelo is usually in the 7K range. He's 6,400. You've got Luis Perez now. I think you got to take a couple shots on him. And any of these other guys, you got Jordan Thomas at 2,700. He's always an interesting touchdown upside guy. Last week, they just kept feeding him. They could not guard that dude in the end zone. So you're going to expect probably 1 or 2 targets in the end zone to Jordan Thomas. 2,700, it's worth taking a shot, right? Who else jumps out to you here?
Just normal guys here, man. I think you can take stabs on Alize Mack, B. Riley, Moore, McKinney. I think he had a touchdown not too long ago.
All those tight ends.
All these guys are pretty finely priced so that you can throw them into that tight end spot if you want. You can pay up for Latimer and Canella. I don't think you need to play 2 tight ends this week. Probably don't need more than one, and it's probably gonna be one of those 2 if you do it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Defense. All right, so Battlehawks are the highest priced defense this week. I'm not interested in playing them at all, really. Defenders at 4,800. Excuse me. Roughnecks 42. You go all the way down to the Guardians at 35. I'm not interested in playing the Guardians defense this week. Sorry, my bad. Brahmas at 3,700 is interesting. The Brahmas defense going up against a team that doesn't need to do anything. They don't need to win. They don't need to play their starters. So you could see a lower scoring game there. And maybe one of these backup quarterbacks makes a mistake. Maybe one of these backup wide receivers tips the ball because they're not comfortable being in the game. They run one back. And same with Renegades at 4K. I think the Arlington Renegades defense, whether or not San Antonio wins or loses, I still think is a good option at 4K. And going up against Houston, who probably isn't going to play their starters. So what do we do here with the defense? I think you probably want to be spread out a little bit, but Renegades, in my opinion, is the way to go. And if you need that $300 salary, go down to the Brahmas.
Yeah, man. I don't know if I'm going to have much Battlehawks. Probably won't have any Guardians. I think the DC defenders are in play. Just because, especially if they need to win that game, they want to win they want to outscore. They want to win by a bunch of points, right? So I do think their defense is in play. But if you're looking to save a little money, I think you should probably prioritize Arlington or San Antonio. They're just both in the best position. San Antonio ended up with a touchdown last week, despite giving up a shitload of points to put them in the optimal. So at those prices, I think those are probably the guys you got to build around.
And also Fred Brown in the kick game for San Antonio, you get points for that if he runs another one back. All right, let's talk about our stacks and our favorite value here. We've already really talked about a lot of stuff, but if you're jumping around based on the time code, we'll get into it a little bit here again. Stacks, Ben DiNucci, and all his guys. Ben DiNucci and Pearson are going to be my staple, and rotate in another one of these dudes, maybe even a Philip Lindsay in that stack. And then you got A.J. McCarron and Aitman. Those are my guys. You mix in Brian Hill, you mix in Hakeem Butler, you mix in Shepard, and I think Shepard is going to be the odd man out in my opinion. Shepard's ownership could be super low. If you go McCarron, Aitman, and Shepard, that's probably a little bit different. And shit, if you fade Aitman, I think you should in a couple lineups because he's not a guarantee going to go off. You probably going Shepard and Hakeem Butler is probably maybe he's not going to be as popular as it should be, right?
Yeah, man. I agree with you there. Akeem Butler, if he's coming in at low ownership, right, you have to have some exposure in your lineups and then pivot off of Bateman. Pay up and then just jam in Puka or whoever else you need for value. But yeah, his favorite stacks, man. Like again, we're just gonna reiterate what we've been saying on all show. It's AJ and Darius Shepard, Aitman, and then Ben DiNucci, and then whatever wide receiver you want. Pretty much, I like Blake Jackson, but that's just my personal opinion all season long.
All right, so my favorite value I think is going to be Puka Williams. It's risky, but he's going to be super low owned in my opinion. He might not get really any ownership because people might not be talking about him. But maybe as we get closer and we start to really see, what's going on with these teams, his ownership will go up. But I think Aitman is just the smash play. Like I said, I'm not going to have him in 100% of my lineups or anything like that because you just can't do that with the XFL. This isn't the NBA, but when it comes to him, I think he's just the safest play at 4,800. And I think he should be in all of your higher dollar entry contests. Like I think it's the 180 this week. It's back to the 180. Maybe it's the 222. I forgot. If you're playing that contest, I think you got to go with Aitman. You have to put him in your lineups there. Who's your favorite value? We'll move on to building lineups.
I'll be a little contrarian here. It's obviously going to be Letty Brown if Davion Smith is out or whatever backup situation that is. Just outside of that, man, like what you said is dead on. Puka Williams is a guy that we need to be paying close attention to, and then Aitman. I'll have a shitload of him. Puka
Williams is scary. It is a risk because we haven't seen him in this role. We don't know what to expect. But there's a lot of upside.
He doesn't have an official number assigned yet on the roster.
Really?
On XFL. Yeah. Which is probably just the site. Like he's worn a jersey before. Yeah.
If you look at his point per game average on the DK app when you're trying to build, it's minus 0.0. Because I think he had negative points last week. All right, let's get into our lineup build here. We appreciate you guys. Join that Discord. Like I said, even if you're not super into XFL, we're still doing a lot of other stuff in there. We're talking strategy for NBA playoffs. We're talking strategy for MLB and some other sports as well. So this is kind of what I came up with for like your chalkier like single entry / 2-2-2 contest. DiNucci at quarterback, Puka Williams at 3.9K. I'm comfortable playing him because of his upside, and he's cheap and allows you to get guys like Ja'Cour Pearson. You got Aitman here. You got Letty Brown. That's all depending on whether or not Devion Smith plays, but I think he's not going to play. I like Cody Latimer again. I know and I think his ownership is going to be a lot lower because people don't know what to expect from Orlando. But I think we do know what to expect. They're going to come out. They're going to play as spoiler, and they're going to try to feed Cody Latimer the ball. This is his last game. And Renegades defense. So what do you think about this lineup? What would you change? Do you want to build a different one together, or do you want to just jump right into tournament builds?
Yeah, we can jump into tournament builds. Just the only thing that I would change here is, and this is something, this is just a roster construction piece, and this comes from Ham Building. This is why if you have optimizers, it's important to use them if you can. But like Pearson and Lattimore, you would swap just because that's the last game, right?
Yeah.
Now, Pearson's obviously not a guy that we plan on coming off much, but we need to reserve that flex position. But that's really the only thing. I think I'll run this exact same lineup, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, stick your flex dudes for that last game so that if you want to play a running back, you can. You're not stuck with a wide receiver / tight end. Let's start with Ben DiNucci. Let's do some stacks with him. Like I said, I think we can do like a little bit, like maybe one run back, but I think we treat these teams that are desperate to get into the playoffs, we treat it as like a little game stack almost. Like you play DiNucci, you play Pearson, you run it back with two St. Louis guys or something like that. I think that's the kind of the way to go roster construction wise. So where do we go here? Do you want to go Blake Jackson?
Yeah, let's do Blake Jackson and then let's throw in our Battlehawks too and then build from there.
Okay,
how's that
cool.
sound?
Yeah, let me find Blake Jackson if I can. All right, 8,700. let's go Battlehawks. So we got to go Aitman, I think. I really do. We can fade him in a couple lineups, but I want to have a lot of him. Aitman, and do we want to go Shepard or do we want to go Hakeem Butler?
Let's go Shepard. Let's go Shepard in this one.
Cool. All right, so let's grab our. Do you want to grab defense first, or do you want to plug in running back?
We can do either. I mean, I think we're pretty much in line with what we're gonna do. So for defense, you want to go? You want to try Brahmas on this one?
Yeah, let's try Brahmas on this one. That's the lowest I'm gonna go. I'm not going to Guardian, so we can lock that in and see where we're at from there. Running back, let's go with Letty Brown for right now. Now, there's a lot of options here. John Lovett. There's just a lot of options in this area. Obviously, you could go up and put in Dimebag Darrell if you wanted. Like in this lineup, if I'm building this for tournaments, I'm just going to rotate out dudes because I like this core. I'm just going to rotate out running backs, and then I'm going to rotate out the last guy. For now, let's go with Letty Brown, I think. That leaves us with 6K. So what does that really get us? Like, where are we at? Let's look. So we can do Dimebag Darrell too. Like, I really do think that 2 running backs this week could be the way to go because of all the value that we're getting with these running backs. Dimebag Darrell in that flex spot. You probably want to move him. You might want to move Dimebag into the running back spot and then put Letty Brown. That's the way to do it, and put Letty Brown into one of the flex. So you can swap off him just in case of Devion Smith. But this is not bad. You got Danucci, Letty Brown, Blake Jackson, Aitman, Shepard, Darrington, Brahmas. I think this is kind of a chalky build, But if you're in a contest with like 2,000 people, I don't. This is a lineup that you probably want to be building. You don't want to get too crazy, right?
Right.
All right. So where are we going next? You want to go? Do you want to get crazier with Danucci? You want to do a run back? We can do a little mini game stack on the other game.
Yeah, let's do one more crazy one with Danucci, and then let's build with St. Louis.
All right, I want to get Pearson in here.
Let's do it.
Obviously, I would move him to the flex, but just the way this is building, it's not going to let me do that right now. Pearson.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
And let's go run back with Vegas. I think you want to go like John Lovett or something.
That works. Yeah, throw in Lovett.
I mean, you could do Badet. You're going to spend a lot of money. You're going to have to go value the rest of it. So Lovett, and then now let's do a little mini game stack for that last game with St. Louis.
Let's go
the first game.
Let's do Butler in this one.
All right, let's do Butler, and then you want to run it back with like either Dimebag or we probably have to do Dimebag or one of these cheaper dudes. What do you think?
I mean, if we're going GPP, I think this would be a good opportunity for Dedrick Thomas. If I'm being honest with you.
Thomas, huh?
Like that's a punt. Like this would be a 150 max. But outside that, yeah, I think Dimebag or
I think KD Cannon might be the right play here instead of Thomas, in my opinion. They're the same price.
They're both 3K. That's fine.
And Cannon has shown that he's being targeted for long plays. So 7,600 between 2 spots here. Let's just plug in Brahmas right away. I mean, I would like to go with the Renegades and some of these, but let's just put Brahmas in and see where we're at. So 3,900. So getting Pearson with Danucci and Butler, you're going to have to do some weird stuff, but I think this is the week to do it. 3,900. Where does that put us?
Puka.
Oh, you got to be shitting me. All right, that's fucked up. I'm going to take a photo of this one because this one fits just too nice, I think. You could rotate out Cannon with somebody else. Like you can get to Jordan Thomas or something at 2,700 and pay up a little bit to get to the Arlington defense. I think that's a really good idea. In fact, let me do that real quick.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're not comfortable with Lovett, like if Jermaine Martin starts, that's literally a 1v1 swap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, totally. Let's put in Arlington's defense. Look at that. So
about 200 off.
So hey, I think there's a lot of cool ways to build this week. You can get weird with it. The great thing about it, in my opinion, is you're focusing in on 2 games and you're grabbing little elements from some of these other games with players that you know are going to be on the field. But you need to leave some open for late swap here for that Arlington game. All right, who do you want to build with next? AJ McCarron? Let's just do that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see how much easier it is with that salary savings. So McCarron, let's go Aitman probably right off the bat, right?
Aitman, Shepard.
Cool, I like that. Where is Aitman? There he is. Aitman, Shepard. Do we want to do a run back with Orlando and then try to get 2 dudes from that other game?
Yeah, I think we can do that. Who do we have from Orlando?
I'm just going to go Cody Latimer, dude. Let's just see what we can do. It might not work. So, we could do a Blake Jackson. We can do a Blake Jackson, or we can get 2 guys from Seattle. You want to do Philip Lindsay? You do Philip Lindsay and one of the, like Juwan Green or something, or Jordan Vesey. Let's see if that actually works.
I think you got to go Lindsay, VC. I think that'll work, actually.
Now, I would rotate this around. I wouldn't be putting Lindsay in the running back spot. I'd put him in the flex, obviously, because it's the last game. Can we do VC? Here, let's put in Renegades.
Yeah, it might be too much.
Who can we get it for 4K here? Remember, Willis
Puka
is probably out. Fucking Puka. Yep, we could. I think that's where we're going to end up a lot of times. I really think so. Now, what you could do here is instead of Puka, you could go down from Latimer to, everybody calls him Lattimore. Like, even the broadcasters call him Lattimore. It's not fucking Lattimore, it's Latimer. Let's go with Dimebag Darrell. 7,100 left on the table for that last spot. Not doing Cedric Bird. Look who it is. Juwan Green. So it gets us up to Juwan Green. We got Lindsay and Green from that game. And then we go game stack McCarron, Aitman, Shepard, run it back with Dimebag Darrell, or some combination of that. You can pull Shepard out. You can put Hakeem Butler in. You can pull you can pull Shepard out and put in Brian Hill. We haven't really talked much about Brian Hill, but you're gonna have to get some exposure to him. All right, man. So what do you think, dude? Like, I actually am kind of like looking forward to this. I'm
ready.
This reminds me of like the first few weeks of XFL, where we were able to win a lot of money because it really, the only thing that mattered is if you were paying attention. Like, you had a huge advantage just if you paid attention and did your research. I think it's the same thing this week. The last few weeks have been rough because there's not a whole lot of like, everybody knows where the ball's going and the pricing was tough. I think there's some good options this week. What jumped out to you with these builds? I feel like the builds feel pretty good, right?
Yeah, man. I feel like DK just used their algorithm and didn't actually like try building and see how it would work out, right? They're not accounting. I don't think they ended up accounting for any of the playoff scenario stuff. So, that's awesome. That's going to help us. We've got some value, I think, that sticks out. Just as we say, kind of to wrap up every show, just don't get married to any one dude. I know we're playing a lot of Puka Williams or whatever in those lineups, but Aitman, right? We're not going to have 100% Aitman. We're going to have a lot of him. We're going to have a shitload of fucking Aitman.
Yeah.
But there's going to be other ways to pivot. So just don't get married to anybody.
The first game, the last game, make sure you're having a lot of exposure to that. Sprinkle in some of these other dudes from the Brahmas, maybe Puka Williams from the Defenders, and then the Renegades could come out and play well. Depending on what happens to the Brahmas, but I still think they come out and they sling the ball around to just try to get some good momentum going into the playoffs. But if the Brahmas lose, I'm a little bit less likely to play a lot of Renegades. Now, if Letty Brown plays, he's the backup running back. They're going to just let him get some work going into the playoffs. You might as well let him play the whole game when it comes to Letty Brown. So I think he's safe if the Brahmas lose. Anything else to add, or we'll get the hell out of here?
No, good luck, guys. Hop in the Discord, chop it up. We're trying our best to keep track with any information that comes out before lock.
Yep, and always keep an eye on those those inactives. We have a XFL breaking news thing that you can turn on in the Discord for notifications, and you'll get those right as they come out. And we're gonna see some weird inactives this week. Like, it's gonna happen. I'm betting on Teamu being inactive and King getting the start. We'll see what happens. We'll see you guys later. We'll see you guys for the playoffs next week.